Hey Firsties, welcome to week 6, day 2. So we're still working on shapes today, and today we're diving into the specifics of shapes, their corners, their sides. So we're going to talk about what makes a square different from a rectangle, different from a rhombus, and we're going to really look at these. So I'm excited. So make sure you're paying close attention because telling the differences between some of these shapes can be a bit tricky. So let's look behind Mrs. Gordon here. So we have a rectangle, a square, a rhombus, a triangle, and a hexagon. So let's start up here with our rectangle. So the first question that I need you guys to help me answer is a rectangle an open or closed shape? So looking at the sides here, is there any openings at all in the shape? No. So that means the rectangle is completely closed, no gaps. So we're going to go ahead and say a rectangle is a closed shape. The next question I want us to answer is, how many straight sides are there? Well, let's count them. Count with Mrs. Gordon. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you agree that all of the sides we just counted are straight? Yeah, so that means we have 4 straight sides in a rectangle. Okay, here's our next question. How many square corners are there? So what that means is in each corner of the shape, how many of them could you fit a perfect square into? Let's test that out here. I can fit a perfect square here. I could fit another perfect square here. I could fit another perfect square here. And I could put a perfect square here. So that means a rectangle has how many square corners in it? It also has 4 square corners. Now, before we talk too much about the rectangle, I want to talk about the square first, and then we're going to compare them. So let's hop over to the square. So same questions. Is this an open or closed shape? Are there any gaps here in the lines? Nope. So that means it is a closed shape. How many, this is different. How many straight sides are there that are the same exact length? Looking at a square here, how many sides are in the square that are all the exact same length? Is this side the same length as this side? And is this side the same length as the other two? And is this side the same length as all of the rest? Yeah. So with a square, that means each side is the exact same length. A square is a perfect shape because everything is equal to each other. So how many sides did we just count that are all equal? 4. Okay. Last question, how many square corners are there? So how many corners could Mrs. Gordon draw a perfect square and it fit in perfectly? How many do you think we could fit in this shape? If I told you a square is completely perfect, do you think I can fit all 4 square corners? Yeah, I can. Let's go ahead and draw these. So I have a square corner here, a square corner here, square corner there, and 4 square corners. Now, we're going to pause. Let's compare the rectangle to the square. What is the big difference between a rectangle and square? Look closely. They have 4 sides and they have 4 square corners. They're really, really similar, but what's the one thing that separates a square from a rectangle? I'll give you about 10 seconds. Can you tell me the difference between a square and a rectangle? Got it? Okay. So here's the big difference between a rectangle and a square. Ready? A rectangle, put your arms out like this, okay? A rectangle, these 2 sides are the same length. But then these 2 sides of your rectangle, they're the same length, but they're not the same size as this. So look up here. Your rectangle, these 2 sides are the same. They're long. But then your 2 sides are not as long, so they're shorter. So a rectangle has two really long sides and then two short little sides that support it. So that is the difference. A square, remember, is completely perfect, right? The square is the same exact size all on each side. But the rectangle has two matching sides that are the same length and two other matching sides that are the same length. So that is the big difference. They both have 4 square corners, they both have 4 sides, but the rectangle doesn't have 4 equal sides. They're not all the exact same. So that's the big difference. And then, now that you know that, I'm gonna throw in another one that's a little bit tricky. Ready? So this shape here, let me write that here. So we have the square. Now we're working on the rhombus. Can you say rhombus? It's kind of a funny word, right? Rhombus. So a rhombus kind of looks similar to the other shapes we see here. Let's see if we can figure out here. Is a rhombus an open or closed shape? It's closed, right? No gaps in a rhombus. So the next thing we're answering is, how many straight sides are there that are the same length? Now Mrs. Gordon's not a perfect drawer, but each of these sides are the exact same length. So let's count them up here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 straight sides in a rhombus. What other shape have we learned about that also has 4 perfectly straight and equal sides? All sides are equal. That's the square we just learned about. So the rhombus also has 4 perfectly straight and equal in length sides. But here's the last question. How many square corners could Mrs. Gordon fit in a rhombus? Could Mrs. Gordon put a perfect square here in that corner? Could I put a perfect square in that corner? It doesn't work. Look what happens when Mrs. Gordon tries to draw a square. Does that work? So nowhere could Mrs. Gordon draw a perfect square. It doesn't work. Nope. So the rhombus has 0 square sides. So what's the difference between a rhombus? The rhombus has 0 square corners. So what is the difference between a rhombus and a square? Well, they both have 4 equal sides. This rhombus happens to be turned a little bit. Not all rhombuses are turned. And the square has 4 square corners, and the rhombus has no square corners. The rhombus is completely different from a rectangle because remember, the rectangle has some equal sides and then another set of equal sides, but they're not all equal. The rhombus does have all the equal sides. Guys, I know this can be a little bit tricky, but just stick with me. The more you listen and hear this, it will be a lot easier to remember the different kinds of shapes. I wanted to do the 3 hardest ones first so that we could talk about these other 2 fun shapes that you'll see today. So this shape here, we know this shape. It is a triangle. All right, guys, you're experts now. Open or closed shape? Closed shape. How many straight sides make up a triangle? It has 3 straight sides. How many square corners could Mrs. Gordon fit in here? Can Miss Gordon put a perfect square here? Can I put a perfect square up here? No, it won't work, right? Because they're tight. There's tight little angles, so you can't fit a perfect square in that. So there are 0 square corners, kind of like our rhombus up here. Last shape here, this is a hexagon. So a hexagon, let's answer the first question. Is it an open or closed shape? Are there any gaps? Nope. So far we've had all closed shapes. How many straight sides do we see in a hexagon? Let's count them. Count with Mrs. Gordon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight sides. How many perfectly square corners could Mrs. Gordon hexagon? Can I put a perfect square here? Can I put a perfect square here? Doesn't look right, does it? So can Mrs. Gordon put any perfectly square corners in this shape? Nope. So that means, once again, that this shape also has 0 square corners. So I'm just gonna quickly go over each of these shapes. Ready? A rectangle has 4 straight sides and it has 4 square corners. Remember, with a rectangle, the top 2 sides are equal and the 2 sides are equal, but it's not perfectly equal. The square, remember, square is perfect. 4 equal sides, 4 square corners, all of them are the same. Rhombus, so rhombus was a little bit trickier one, remember? So the rhombus has 4 straight sides, but it has no square corners, which means it's a little bit tighter. It has a little bit more angle to it. Triangle, 3 straight sides, no square corners. Hexagon, 6 straight sides, no square corners. So that was your crash course today on the specifics of shapes. So you will be doing a worksheet where you're gonna determine, you're gonna be kind of like a detective and figure out which shape's a square, which shape, I cannot talk today, which shape is a rhombus. So I'm really looking forward to see how you do with this. If you have any questions, please let Mrs. Gordon know. Hope you have a great day. See ya, bye.